Greetings, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, the Optanix Platform for UCCE, Assuring Exceptional Customer Experience. Today, we'll be providing a first-hand glimpse at what makes the Optanix Platform the premier solution for monitoring and managing UCCE deployments so that they can reliably deliver positive customer experiences. My name is Robert Waters. I'm in the marketing department at Optanix, and I'm going to kick things off here today. Before we begin, I just want to cover a few housekeeping items. First off, all attendees are on mute, so you can hear us, but we can't hear you. Because of that, you can submit any questions you may have in the questions box, which is accessible via the question mark icon. We'd love to have this be an interactive session, so we'll do our best to answer any questions you may have as we go along. But we also plan to have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Now, if you think of any questions after the session or you're looking for anything else, you can shoot an email to optanix@optanix.com and we'll be happy to help you out. And now that we've got that out of the way, I'd like to introduce you to today's presenters. As stated previously, my name is Robert Waters. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Optanix, and I'm leading things off today. Joining me is Gary Vandenberg, our Director of Solutions Architecture. Gary will be celebrating his 9-year anniversary with Optanix in about 9 days' time. And I know that because, fun fact, we actually both started here on the same day many years ago. And prior to Gary's time at Optanix, he also had long stints at NetSolve and then Cisco after it acquired NetSolve. So you're in good hands with him. And they're not listed here, but I should also mention that we have a couple other individuals joining us on the line today, and they're just here to help out with any questions that may pop up during this session. So before we get into the meat of the presentation, here's a quick background on Optanix so you're aware of who we are and what angle we're approaching this topic from. So as the slide states, we are both a technology and a managed services provider, which effectively means we are a software developer that sells a service assurance platform, and that we also have a 24/7 NOC. And both of these offerings focus predominantly on the contact center, unified communications, and IT infrastructure spaces. So moving on to our actual topic for today, what I have here is a definition for customer experience that's intended to serve as a sort of a level set for everyone attending the session. So this definition comes from the Gartner report, IT's role in the customer experience journey. And it states that customer experience is the customer's perceptions and related feelings caused by the one-off and cumulative effect of interactions with the supplier's employees, systems, channels, or products. And I just share that definition just to ensure we're all operating from a common vernacular as we get underway here today. So on this slide, you see some data pulled from that same Gartner report that I just mentioned on the previous slide. And it shows to what degree companies compete or will compete on the basis of customer experience. So I think it's pretty common knowledge that the emphasis placed on customer experience by both companies and customers is growing at a fast rate. But this graph really illustrates just how rapid that growth is. So at the time the report was published, only 42% of companies interviewed said they had competed on the basis of customer experience 2 years prior, whereas 86% of those companies projected they would be competing on the basis of customer experience 2 years into the future. So the prevalence of customer experience as a differentiator was effectively set to double in just 4 years' time. And what's really worth noting here is that this data was actually collected in 2019. Thus, it wouldn't be unreasonable to make the assumption that the move by companies to leverage customer experience as a differentiator has likely accelerated even more now that we find ourselves in a pandemic, and also that much more of those customer experiences will be taking place online or over the phone moving forward, as opposed to, in person. So that brings us to UCCE. So if you chose to attend this webinar today, I would imagine you have at least a passing knowledge or interest in UCCE, seeing as it's the focal point of the session. And so I won't really spend too much time here. However, I think it's safe to say a couple of things. So One, UCCE is one of the most powerful solutions a company can leverage if they aim to deliver positive customer experiences, especially with the release of all the new features available in release 12.5. And two, those customer experiences facilitated through UCCE are really only going to be positive if a company's UCCE deployment is operating at peak performance. And that means no dropped calls, no misrouted calls, no poor voice quality, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Enter Optanix. So our platform was actually originally purpose-built to assure UCCE environments by Cisco experts, including several CCIEs, and it has been deployed in some of the world's largest and most complex UCC environments to great success. So this slide here actually contains a couple real-life examples of that platform in action. So on the left-hand side here, in the first example, the Optanix platform and our managed service combined to raise the availability of a healthcare company's catalog sales contact center, which was their main source of revenue, from 99.75% availability to 99.97%, which doesn't seem like a lot on paper, but when you do the math, it actually works out to nearly 20 hours of downtime per year we were able to help them avoid. And obviously, that has a great effect on their revenue. So in the second example on the right here, shortly after the platform or the Optanix platform was deployed at a Fortune 500 company, it helped to uncover the fact that the company was dropping 25,000 calls per day due to a CVP survivability misconfiguration. So, this discovery enabled that company to fix the issue and shore up their customer service contact center and, make sure they were providing those positive customer experiences moving forward. All right, so getting down to business, the reason we're gathered here today is to provide you all with a glimpse of those UCC features and functionality within the Optanix platform that enable the platform to achieve the results such as those I just described on the previous slide. So now, before I get in over my head from a technical standpoint, I will go ahead and turn it over to Gary for part 2 of our presentation. Gary, take it away. And let me quickly give you control here. All right, all you.
Wonderful. Thanks, Robert. And by the way, congratulations on your upcoming anniversary.
Thank you. Likewise. You probably didn't even realize.
Thanks, everybody, for joining. As Robert said here, I'm Director of Solutions Architecture at Optanix. Role here today is just to kind of navigate through multiple slides that relate to contact center. We'll start out with, excuse me, our platform architecture view. And whoops, back up one there. And as Robert mentioned a bit, this is our own software, our own patented code. We've been monitoring and managing contact center environments for quite a while, so we have many purpose-built monitoring routines and capabilities inside of here. And so just to briefly touch on what the platform does as a whole, and again, our code, we're not integrating off-the-shelf packages from other vendors, so it's in our direct control. We're able to add features, as we need to. So going from left to right, we've got an inventory system in the platform that understands devices and applications, can auto discover them in the voice and contact center world, and contact center specifically, it will auto discover call routers and HDSs and such, and attached PGs and all those sorts of things, and auto populate the inventory, and it keeps track of various metrics on those devices once the inventory is created. And then we have a series of what I call multilingual ingestion engines, and so we talk to devices through native protocols, whether that's SNMP or SSH or REST APIs, et cetera. We don't require any specific third-party agents to be installed on your devices or your hosts, and so we're able to gather that wealth of diagnostic information that way. And those first two boxes there are sort of the substance of getting a customer up and live for us. Once you would be up and live on the platform, and those ingestion engines, discover something amiss in your infrastructure, your contact center infrastructure, they'll forward events up to the correlation and decision-making box that you see there for it to get to root cause or probable fault. Is responsible for ingesting, what might be 1, 10, or 100 or thousands of alarms that happen when any particular event takes place, whether it's the real event or a sympathetic event. And the correlation routines get us to root cause quickly. And from that, we create tickets. And so the tickets are sort of the driving force to, service center interaction. We also send out notifications from those tickets. The ticketing system is tied to the alarm system, so we can auto-escalate or de-escalate based on presence or absence of alarms and whatnot. And then also, because we're collecting a wealth of both device and service-related information, meaning the actual assets themselves and the tickets that we're generating and resolving on your behalf, we also are able to generate a wealth of both predefined and then custom reports within the system as well. And then key in the voice and contact center world, we also collect and retain CDR and CMR data. And then lastly, there's a web user interface that's available for you to kind of watch what we do or interact with the system yourself as well. You can view dashboards, view tickets, view configurations, etc., submit service change requests, all those sorts of things through that same platform. So that's sort of a quick summary of the architecture. We're going to focus specifically on contact center dashboards today, but I want you to understand that this same architecture that you see on screen here, left to right, is also capable for voice, Cisco voice, network, data center, and video. And we have, monitoring and ticket types and dashboards for those technologies as well. So you can, in essence, start with contact center, and if you find at some point in the future that you want to add network to that same platform that we've installed for you, you can do that as well. So navigating to the first dashboard, this is our central controller dashboard. So you can see on screen where we've got the A-side, B-side routers, A-side, B-side loggers, and the health indicators of those connections. This is kind of our contact center connectivity summary dashboard. So you can see the loggers and HDSs that are attached to them up in the upper right-hand side. You can see the A-side, B-side PGs and their connections, and then highlighted in the, I guess you'd call it a shade of gold there, you can see the actual PGs that are active and assigned and have running connections to those to the active router. So we keep track of each PG and each of the connections that they have. So you've got A-side, B-side PGs, and then each has a connection to each of the routers. So that's 4 connections in total. We keep track of all 4 of those, and it's not just is it an application status? We kind of drill down into the OS and make sure that there's an actual TCP connection between those 2 hosts to validate those green check marks that you see on screen. And much like any other web interface, there's lots of abilities to kind of drill down and discover other things inside of here. So the next panel we'll see is our serviceability dashboard, and this is our way of portraying the hosts that make up the solution, and then the ability to see any running processes on them and their current state, and then if they've bounced in the last 10 minutes or not. There on the far right hand side, you can see the active 10-minute value, and so as you know, in a redundant contact center environment, a process may bounce, the RDR process or OPC process may bounce, and so you can kind of pick up on that visually with those check marks on there. Drilling down even further, I apologize for the kind of the obfuscation that you see on here, the blurriness on the screen. We wanted to use live panels, and so we've kind of covered out some of the host names and IP addresses so that we're not exposing customer information. So just to let you know. And so here you can see even further drill down on server vitals and CPU and memory, status of collection methods and those sorts of things. And for other tools, this is where they kind of stop short. Kind of standard off-the-shelf tools will look at key processes, and that's about it. And you can see there in the 3 green check marks for SNMP API and metric API monitoring, there's a lot of deep inspection that we do on contact center hosts through APIs, the Serviceability API, that gives us a leg up on kind of standard market-based tools. And those check marks are, again, the indications that the health and the connection of our monitoring platform to those hosts is accurate and up and running. So going significantly beyond again, just standard market-based tools. And then kind of drilling down even further, you can see any running processes, and then if you click on any running process, it'll show you the CPU and memory histograms down below. And it's a little bit hard to tell, but in the lower right-hand corner of any one of those histograms, you can see a little 1 hour indicator there. On a per graph basis, you can pop up a little dialog and change the time frame over which that histogram is being reflected. But you can see, on the process layer, you can see the PID, the process ID, the CPU and memory, and again, the running state as well. Navigating next to CVP, as Customer Voice Portal, we show the connections of the call servers, report servers, media servers, the connected PIM and its link status, ports licensed and in use, etc. So a good kind of textural summary screen. And then we can drill down even further and sort of get a graphical view of any one of those particular hosts and see ports in use, CPU and memory. And then on that upper left-hand box, we could, there's another 4 levels of drill down in this screen that we could get IVR stats, SIP stats, ICM stats, and VXML stats. But for the sake of time, I've not included those slides in here. But again, a lot of information for all of the connected hosts that are part of the solution here. So next dashboard down or drill down here would be Finesse. A lot of customers using this for gadgets on agent desktops. And so we show the primary and secondary host of each Finesse pair and the PG that they're connected to and the status of that connection. Again, my apologies for the blurring here, that we didn't want to show host names and IPs. And then likewise, drilling down on Finesse, we can get histograms of CPU and memory for those 2 hosts that are in the pair, and then their diagnostic API status, if you will. And then additionally, CUIC, Cisco Unified Information Center, for reporting on contact center. Here we can see the publishers and subscribers that are involved with those CUIC instances. Down below, we can see the database, or data sources, I should say, data sources that they're connected to for report data, and the status of those connections, whether it's an active connection or just something that's in the library connections to be leveraged. And you can see we're reflecting the version of Java on those hosts as well. And then if we drill down onto any one of those CUIC instances, we can also see traditional CPU and memory, but then also active reports, running reports, historical reports running, again, those selectable histograms, time frame selectable, and then the status of those diagnostic connections, making sure that our monitoring system has valid connections to those hosts and can gather all the data that we've programmed it to. I guess that might be a good momentary segue. If you're talking about a traditional kind of voice and contact center environment and the amount of diagnostic data that we're gathering from a pure health and welfare, ignoring the performance stats that we're collecting purely for health and welfare, there's about 750 attributes that we pull off of all of these collective servers and hosts to determine the health of contact center as an environment. So again, pretty significant monitoring to keep track of the environment. Our focus is around finding and fixing the small things first before they become big problems, if you will. Next dashboard down, we can see some call performance here related to calls handled by the A side and the B side. Now, we specifically picked this particular graph because most of the time that call count and the histograms should be equal. but they're not always, and sometimes there's problems on the call routers, and that's why we kind of highlighted this particular one. Drilling down to the next screen, we can see agents logged in, priority queue, adept, greeting calls, queue pairs, et cetera. So kind of getting between these two, the call performance screen and the agent screen, kind of getting into the visibility of what the agents are doing themselves. The next feature that we have is our ICM scripting tool. So we use this to either A, look at a script in the first place, or B, do a comparison. So we periodically gather and store in our platform revisions and read-only copies of the scripts from the HDS, and then again store them in the platform. And as you can see, there's a list of the screens here, or list of the scripts that we've gathered here. And then the next slide down, you can see, I guess I'd call it a little bit of a Visio-like diagram where we're kind of charting out what that script is. This particular screen is a comparison screen. You can see in the zoom level here where objects are grayed out. That means there's been no change between two versions of the script. Where you've got a brighter level of a color here, that means that there have been changes. So it's a real nice way to either A, again, look at scripts to begin with to see what's stored and running inside the system, or B, for what we would call change-induced incidents, for you to be able to see the differences between, picking an example, the greeting script on Monday of last week versus the greeting script on Monday of this week, and have there been any changes. It's real easy to highlight those and then see what the actual changes have been. Since the predominance of installs that we have for Contact Center are active and running on UCS servers and using the VMware hypervisor, we've also written extensive monitoring and dashboarding for VMware as well. And on the top of the screen, you can see various gadgets there for filtering and sorting and the layout style of the screen. You can select down hosts only, select all hosts, view a large format, a small format, etc. And it really lets you kind of narrow in on what you're looking for in that particular case. If you're only looking for faults, you can turn that on, and it'll only show hosts and hypervisors that have VMs that have a problem associated with them. And then if you drill down onto any particular ESXi, you can get graphs on performance. You can see instances of virtual machines that are running on them and the resources that are assigned to them. You can also see the alarm screen that might be driving cases into the platform, or tickets into the platform, if you will. And then the last screen I'll touch on before I kind of pass it back to Robert is our cube or SIP dial peer screen. Again, with calls flowing through Contact Center and defined dial peers, it's helpful to be able to see the call flow through those dial peers. So with that, I'll call that a very abbreviated run through of the Contact Center dashboards that we have available. Again, highlight you back to that first architecture screen that I showed you, that shows all of the functions of the platform. The dashboards are certainly the most visible and prevalent of those, or user interfacing kind of piece. But the platform is much more capable beyond dashboarding. Those ones that I've showed you are ones that we deliver out of the box, but the dashboard function is highly customizable, either by you or by us. And again, we're able to monitor multiple technologies and deliver dashboards and capabilities across those, not just for Contact Center. So with that, Robert, I'll pass it back to you for the review on the next slide.
Excellent, thank you, Gary. That was great.
Your voice level is really low, Robert.
Apologies. How about now?
I don't know if it's just me. I just hear you really low.
Okay, well.
You sound good to me, Robert. So good.
Okay, right, just me then, sorry.
I'll forge ahead. All right, so that was excellent. Thank you, Gary. And sort of as Gary mentioned, that was a very tip of the iceberg, given our time constraints here today. So if you are interested in a deeper dive, definitely get in touch with us, either at the email address I mentioned before, optanix@optanix.com, or go ahead and reach out through our website or however you want. So before we dive into our Q&A session, I just wanted to take the opportunity to mention that Optanix was actually identified as a challenger in the first ever Gartner Magic Quadrant for Managed Network Services that was released last week. And you'll notice on the right hand of the slide here, a URL where you can go ahead and access a complimentary copy of that Magic Quadrant report if you're interested in learning more about Gartner's take on the MNS space and some vendors in this space. And you'll also see a quote over there from the report that we felt was relevant to today's session. And now, without further ado, I'll go ahead and get to the questions. So first off, thank you to everyone who submitted questions via email before the session. And we'll go ahead and begin with those, then transition to any that have been submitted via chat during the webinar. So Gary and Stephen, we'll start with Gary, obviously, since he's our presenter today. So first question is, can you address monitoring of UCCE environments for network requirements like missed heartbeats, latency exceeds requirements, diverse paths, alerting on other errors?
Yes, absolutely. Many of those metrics are available in the Serviceability API that Cisco makes available within the application, and so those are absolutely things that we look for and alert off of. And our platform has a pretty sophisticated way of watching those things as well. It's not just a red light, green light, on, off sort of thing. We can time and count, number of missed replies, decide when to open a ticket, et cetera. But yes, we're checking for the actually the miss of a heartbeat. Every receipt of a heartbeat causes the flag to reset and say everything's okay. And then if we miss one, then we're able to alert off of that, or at least age it and count it, and then decide when we want to alert on it. And then likewise on latency, there's a latency measurement from our platform to every host, and then there's also a ping function within the again, the Serviceability API that lets us perform pings to and from each and every host of the cluster and store and alert off of those as well.
Perfect, thanks.
Yes, sir.
All right, and since we've got Stephen here, we might as well use him, so I'll hit him with the next one. And that question is this platform included in the MPass service or strictly in the RMS service?
So it's for both. Again, I feel like one of the ways we were able to differentiate ourselves in the Magic Quadrant is the fact that we are able to represent both sides of that coin in terms of software delivery, where we sell it to you as a managed service, or we can use it internally to support you in an RMS capacity, but it's definitely both flavors.
Exactly, thanks, Stephen. So yeah, the platform is available standalone or as part of RMS, same platform, both offerings. All right, Gary, we'll throw it back over to you for the next question, which is, do you offer support for 12.5?
Yes, we do. We are on the verge of being formally certified for it from Cisco. We're in testing with it right now, and we have, I would guess, we're in the range of half a dozen to a dozen customers that have converted already and are on our code, on the version of our code that supports 12.5. And so, yes, absolutely, we have support for that.
Excellent, thank you, Gary. All right. Another question here, Stephen, we'll throw it back over to you. Keep it going back and forth. This question is, how is this product licensed? Is it per user or agents?
So it's you could technically say both, but basically we track the number of devices that's most critical, and that we also track it by application. So like your PG would be an application, COIC would be an application. We track it by number of agents, concurrent agents specifically, and then we also track it by active CVP ports. So you could say, again, and we also look at, in a UC environment, number of handsets, basically any type of IP telephony component that registers to your UC cluster. But in essence, that's the shortest way of kind of tracking how it is licensed, and it's that stack total that we bring together, you know, if we're going to do a quote, and then we sum that up, and then you kind of you have some one-time services mixed together with your ongoing service. And again, it varies obviously between whether you're doing MPass or you're doing RMS in terms of managed versus just the software component.
Sure thing. Okay, we a few more trickling in here. Gary, throw it back over to you. Does the platform integrate with Webex Contact Center? If not today, when?
I would say that we are prepared for that, meaning we're still kind of getting through the Cisco API phase. We can certainly monitor premise-based assets today, and we are API ready with our platform already. Meaning we're able to integrate APIs whenever they're published and available, and so we're kind of waiting for that release from the manufacturer to be able to give us that diagnostic visibility.
And just to add some clarity to that, is there's Webex Contact Center Enterprise, which is the standard UCCE flavor of Cisco's predominant, you know, primary enterprise level contact center software that's in a cloud hosted by Cisco. That is Webex Contact Center Enterprise. Then there's Webex Contact Center End of Sentence, and that is the formerly BroadSoft, formerly CJP flavor that was released by Cisco. That one is in a similar boat in the fact that API set not yet exposed for other vendors, but we definitely have an interest in managing that. It's more of the timing has to align with when that Cisco business unit is going to make it available to our platform to be able to do things like ingest alerts and receive that type of telemetry information from their software.
Perfect. Great insight.
One other piece I'd add on to there is just, you know, from the universal visibility from our platform, as long as an asset has a published interface and our ability to reach out to that element is there, you know, our same service model of what you saw in that architecture slide of inventory, surveillance, correlation, ticketing, reporting, you know, it ostensibly doesn't matter where the asset is, as long as we can get access to it, we can monitor it and drive information and value against it.
Excellent. All right. Well, we're a little over on time here, but we have a few more questions keep trickling in, so we'll go a few more minutes for anyone who wants to hang around. So another question is the platform HCSCC compliant, bearing in mind some of the serviceability APIs are different, not available in HCSCC? Gary, do you want to take that one?
Yes. So we have and are managing HCS instances of contact center, and so yes, we have survey and capabilities for that.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, we'll do one more and then we'll wrap it up. And Gary, we'll start with you, and then Stephen, if you want to weigh in after. We'll give you both a crack at this one. But the last question we'll hit today is, how do you differentiate yourself from competitors in the contact center market space?
First and foremost, I would say depth of the solution, meaning the platform that we have, and then the skills of our people are the two main differentiators. I think the monitoring, depth of monitoring that we do, the significant leverage of the Serviceability API, the correlation routines that we have in the platform to get to root cause and suppress spurious alarm noise, you know, creates a great differentiator for us. It helps us achieve shorter mean time to repair intervals, and then the skill sets of our individuals that we have. We have, you know, folks on staff that have been with us 10 and 15 years that are, you know, senior contact center engineers that know how these systems operate, and, you know, beyond the platform capabilities, they're extremely capable at doing diagnosis in this application as well.
Excellent. Thanks, Gary.
Yeah.
Stephen, any flavor to add there?
And I feel like we could have a whole nother webinar just on adding to that point, but I think one thing that just I cannot emphasize enough is that just understanding how to use these APIs is one thing, but throwing on 20 years of experience in doing so is completely different, right? And I think that's, again, where we shine, is we know that, hey, look, this API, you can overload it if you do X, Y, Z, or you can push it to its limits and have these things have negative impacts on the contact center if you do this. So we've gone out of our way to find that balance and to also find out all the things that went into those correlation algorithms in terms of, just because you have an alert, what does it mean? What's significant about it, and what should you do to resolve it? That experience, that know-how is really what we're also bringing to the table here, rather than just collecting these alerts and assigning them to individuals. It goes way beyond that in terms of really helping you drive down that mean time to repair by coming together and helping you get to root cause quicker.
Beautiful. All right. Thank you both for that input there. And like I said, we'll go ahead and wrap up now. So thank you to everyone who took the time to join us today. Quick favor, as you log off, you'll be prompted with a brief exit survey. We would really appreciate if you'd fill that out, as we'd love to get your feedback on the session, and you know, it'll help us shape our future sessions. And that will conclude today's webinar. Thanks again for joining, and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.